So today, what we're going to be doing is building a utility, a web page utility with JavaScript that will take a string of data and upload it to IPFS, and then take the hash and upload it to a timestamper contract. That's going to be pretty similar to our contract from last week. It's just going to be an event emitter that's basically just renamed. Let's see, that is from something else. Let me just grab the code here. So it's going to be a lot like our punch clock. It's going to be, in fact, exactly like our punch clock with a different name. All this punch clock really was doing was just caching events. It was, well, I suppose broadcasting events. So I'm gonna rename this to a timestamper, because that's really what it's doing. It's what the utility is that it's offering us. Timestamp. Just like that. So the utility is exactly the same. The logic, if you can even call it that, is the same. But I'm going to compile this, and we're going to be using this this time to upload hashes as the string with a little bit of metadata as well. And the idea is here is that the user would want to use this utility to upload maybe the progress on the work that they're doing, or code, or anything that they're working on. And the Solidity contract is good for keeping track of the fact that they did it. You know, it's under their Ethereum identity, and it keeps track of the timestamp. And you can also log more metadata, and then it'll also log the hash of the IPFS file, which the IPFS will actually hold the data itself. So let's see here. Let's look at the outline here. Okay, that one's pretty easy and done. Let me move this over here. Yep, and we can run it. I'm going to go ahead and right away upload this, or deploy it rather, on Ropsten. Once it reloads. There we go. Run, deploy. We don't really need to redeploy this. I mean, the other one had the same functionality, but later on, if we want to verify the source code, it's better to have our code up to date if we want to verify it on Etherscan. So that should be mining. So the first thing that we want to do, well, I guess first I'll go over Bo's code here. So this is what the interface looks like, and this is just a simple sort of a minimum code thing going on here that takes a string and it uploads an IPFS hash. So you can type in yo, what up, whatever you want, and you click create, and in a second here it will have uploaded my string. Okay, there we go. So we can see over here, there's the hash, and it looks like it did update this string as well. So we can take this and we can actually view that in IPFS and see that it got uploaded there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take this code, which is here, and I'll just take this and put it in the links for the post so you guys can take a look at that. Oops. There we go. So that's just the storing of the stuff on IPFS. It's pretty basic. I mean, it'd be nice if it was even simpler, but the way IPFS API is, this is what you got to do. We can also, it looks like there's a display function, I don't know, I don't think it's actually used on the interface. Yeah, so the interface just uses the storing function of these two, but you can also use the view function to actually retrieve the data, I believe. Yeah, IPFS cat, that's how you retrieve the data. Another thing that I'll put in the links is this API reference here. And that is, if you want to do some more stuff with IPFS, you can take a look there. Go ahead and close, whoops, I want to keep that one open, but close that. So yeah, we have our contract up, probably, it's probably been mined by now. Yep, so I'll go there, grab the contract address. So as far as the code, what I've got here, let me close that. That's just going to close everything and reopen what we need here. So I'm going to go on to week 5 here, and all I've done so far is I've just copied everything in our week 4 clock punch webpage over just as a template. So I still need to go through and actually take out some of the stuff that is not going to be necessary. So we don't need punch actions, seconds worked, or punch action output vars, or agent address input. Let's see, clock punch contract instance, we can rename that to timestamp contract instance. And actually, I guess that's timestamper if I'm going to be consistent with my naming here. Address. Humanized time work, we don't need that anymore. Let's see, keep all that. Get punch events from agent. I'm just going to comment this out because some of this we'll be using again, because we're going to be still searching for events later on. When we get to the this last item here, we want to find all the uploads by a given Ethereum agent. We're going to be doing sort of the same thing. Okay, that's all fine. I guess I can just take this one out totally. And so then we need to go to contract info. That's what I was doing earlier. So I got the address from our created contract. So we've done this before. This is nothing too new here. Got the address. Let's get the ABI. Which again, the logic is the same, but we've changed some of the names here, so that's going to generate a different ABI. Details and ABI. And just go ahead and do like this, put a semicolon, and then of course change these names. Timestamper address. Oh geez. And timestamper ABI. Okay. And we got sort of a blank JavaScript, and now I just need to change the index a bit. Our CSS has stayed the same throughout, so there's probably some outdated stuff in there too. Although it looks pretty basic, so that's good. Index, we want to keep all these warnings. We want to keep an app. I think I'm going to take out the address input. And yeah, I'm going to take out, I think, all of this. We don't really want any of this table, because this was just our clock punch viewing stuff from before. So I'm going to take all that out. That'll be our main view where we put our content. We'll keep the transactions transactions object. I think that we still have a, well, maybe not. We have a v4 transaction object in transactions, so we're still going through that. If it's empty, it won't even display anyway. And and as evidenced by this bit here. So we'll keep that in. I'm just going to save everything and make sure it all loads without any errors. So once again, I'm going to go to localhost. This is where I'm keeping all my files, seminar source code, and week 5, IPFS timestamp. Okay, it seems to load. Let's just make sure there's no errors. Okay, no errors, that's good. I guess the next step then is to get Bo's code working in our website. So that should be shouldn't be too complicated here. Close that. Close that. If we go look at his code here, yeah, app.js. We do need the IPFS API. I'm actually not sure where that came from, although it worked fine in. Oh, it's probably included in the HTML, of course. Okay. So let's get this. That'll get our IPFS code. Put it in our index way up here at the top, right here. And I guess for this one, I'll just copy this file. There's no need to copy and paste the text. So I'll go here and I guess I'll just open. I have this. I just threw it into right here. And there's our app.js. I wonder, I probably can. What I'll do is I'll take out this last line is of course affecting our actual document. I'm just going to erase that, and let's see. I'm just going to include this file as well, and then I'll just call these functions. And probably replace this with a return, although this is an anonymous function, so that might be. What I'd like to do is be able to maybe rename this file to IPFS and return this, but well, first of all, it's in an anonymous function here, so that I won't just be able to return it. And also, I don't know if there's much point into making this an included file. I mean, the logic is so basic, might as well kind of just copy it right into ours. So, okay, I'm just going to take all of this and go into our index.js, and yeah, let's make some new functions here. The only thing I might change is this display. It would be nice to have this function somehow return the hash. I guess I can just write my own display. Okay, what do we want to do with this hash? Let's I suppose I could put a callback in here, and that this could call with the hash, just to carry through the awful callback usage here. Yeah, I'm gonna have this function take a callback that will do something with the hash, and all I'm trying to figure out now is what to call it. So, how about handle IPFS hash? Or IPFS hash handler. Okay, now we want to have an input with a button that will actually trigger this. So I'm going to go back to index here, and we want an input as well. We'll have to have a, let's see, upload input. We'll have to have that in our index as well. I'm going to close this app.js so I don't get confused. And we'll have a button. Again, these classes are just for the Bootstrap to make them look a little bit better. And then the name of the button can be upload and timestamp, because this button will trigger both the IPFS action and our contract action. And then we want to do an on-click. And then we'll have to write this function here. Okay, let's go out to our index and start figuring out what that function is going to be. So first thing is we want to grab that input. So data to upload equals window.app. And then what was it called again? Upload input. Oops. Yeah, okay, that's a good point, Sayron. So, yeah, let me back up a little bit and talk a little bit about IPFS. So IPFS stands for Interplanetary File System, and whereas we've been using Ethereum this whole time to do some decentralized computation and to sort of build some applications that exist without a server, and IPFS is all about sort of not really computation but storing files. And so with Ethereum, if you're going to try to store a large amount of data on the blockchain, it takes a lot of gas, and it's not really built to hold files. And IPFS is built to hold files. You can, as I sort of showed earlier, this is a simple interface to upload stuff to IPFS, and then you can take this hash, and you can go and ipfs.io/IPFS/ put your hash in, you get your data right there. So that is sort of the use of IPFS, and what we're trying to do in this video is to sort of unite those two use cases, where Ethereum can sort of we're using Ethereum to sort of enforce identity recognition and timestamp these files, and IPFS will actually hold the data itself. And so just to connect that back to the actual code we're writing here, this function, what it's going to do is it's going to take the data that the user puts in and put it to IPFS, get the hash, the same kind of hash that we see right here, and then it's going to put that hash into a smart contract that's associated with the user's address and timestamped, with also with some other metadata. So that's what we're doing here. That's the proposed use case. So I guess I might as well just put that into some comments here. Okay. So, and the first part of that is just going to be using our store function here. And I guess I want to rename that too. And data to upload. And then we want to, oh, wait a minute. Hold up, this is getting weird because this grabs it right from the document, which we don't want. I'm going to do it like this. And actually we'll just take out all this and say to store, like so. And then down here, okay. And then we want to pass it a callback. And I guess we'll just define it right in here. So we are calling our upload to IPFS function here. We're giving it the data to store and then our handler. We're just going to be defining the handler down here. And the handler takes an IPFS hash, and that's how it uses it here. It calls the handler with the hash. So, okay, we got the hash. Now we can pretty easily upload it to the contract. So now here, if we look at our contract code, all we're going to be passing to it is the string. We could pass to it just the hash by itself, but we could also pass to it some JSON encoded metadata. So we could give it a name, and then the hash. We could also in that JSON actually describe that it is an IPFS file. Because our timestamper contract here is very general purpose. If we tag every, if we're using this tool here and we tag every upload as IPFS, then later we can just search for just the IPFS stuff, or at least display that that's where it is, and maybe the interface could be a little bit more intelligent on how to grab that. So so we've uploaded the data itself to IPFS and we have the hash, and now I want to put that into a JSON structure with the hash, but also with a name and with a descriptor telling us that it's on IPFS. So I guess I just will make since this is JavaScript, we can just put that all into a dictionary. So let's see, what are we gonna call this variable? What we're gonna actually put on the timestamper. Data to timestamp. How about that? And we will say I guess we need to have an input for the name too, if we'd want this data to actually be named. So I will put in do that, go to the index, add an input for that. Is that what I called it? Name input, yep. Guess I should put some descriptors here too. Okay. And then the actual hash. Or I guess, so we're uploading this dictionary. It's going to be JSON encoded, but we're putting this dictionary onto our contract. And this is sort of a general purpose contract, and I'm trying to build a structure that we can put in there, and then that later a client can search through this stuff and make sense of it. So we have a data type. We're saying it's IPFS, the name, and then I guess I'm just trying to think of what to name this last bit. It's the actual hash. I guess I'm just going to just call it data, or I mean, because we're calling it action in our contract. That's should not be calling it that. I think that's a little bit of a misnomer. I think this should actually be data. If I change all this, I might have to, probably should re-upload it. So I guess I'm going to do that. And deploy it. Transaction underpriced. Okay, let's try again. Weird that it does that sometimes. Tries to make me do it with 0 gig away. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on that. When that's out, we'll change our contract info in our front end. Anyway, okay, so data, and then that will just be IPFS hash. Okay, now I forget exactly how to JSON encode something. JSON.stringify. Okay. I guess I probably don't have to include anything. I think that's just included, so. Man, it gets a little confusing when all these names are so general. I mean, I guess I can just call it data or string. I'm gonna call it data, even though it has a data bit in that dictionary, which is a little confusing. Okay, so we have this data, which is a stringified version of this dictionary, and now we just want to put that into our smart contract, which just amounts to a smart contract call. And we have our contract timestamp or contract instance. That should be contract instance dot. And remember, this was the reason we can already use this, even though we've barely even touched any Web3 code, is because we already had this computed function here that computes our timestamper contract instance based on it. Here's where it calls the Web3. And we did change the timestamper ABI and timestamper address earlier in this seminar. Speaking of that, I'm going to see if our transaction has been mined. It has. So I'm going to get actually this new contract address and get the new contract ABI too, and put that into contract info. So there's that. And again, the only difference here is that, well, it's on a different address, but it also has the ABIs describing these things a little differently. It's data instead of just string or whatever it is we were calling it. Action, I guess we were calling it. Okay, so here's our contract instance. Now we just need to call a function. So it's make timestamp. That's what we're calling it this time. Make timestamp. And it just takes the data, which we have right there, and then a callback. So what do we want it to do? Error. Okay, and else, I guess I want to add, if there's no error, then we'll get a transaction ID, which I would like to add to transactions. Now, our HTML is treating this a little differently, and I think that's because our last, one of the projects we worked on before actually wasn't storing the transaction hash directly. It was storing something a little higher level. So I'm going to go look at what that is, because that was probably a better idea, and I forget what it was that it was actually doing. Let's go here, and I'm just going to search for transactions, see how it was not there. Oh, I guess this one didn't add anything. It was all the way back in week 3. Okay, let me close this so I don't get confused. Week 3, subscription manager, index.js. Okay, so yeah, we were actually creating a transaction output object with a string and a transaction. I like that. I'm going to just copy that and do that again back where we are. So, okay, copy that, I'm going to close that, back to what we're working on now, and we're going to make a transaction object with a string, and just to give it a better human readable label, okay, so then when we still need to actually add it to the transactions. Okay, now assuming there's no bugs, which I somehow feel like that's a long shot, but this should now grab our data to upload, the data name from the interface. It should then call our upload to IPFS function with the data to upload, which is up here, and this is all the IPFS code, which Bo has put together for us. And then it should, at the end of that function, it'll call our IPFS handler, which is basically all the rest of our code here. It'll put together a dictionary with the data type as IPFS and the name and data from the input. Well, our name from the input and the data is actually our IPFS hash. It should then turn that all into a string called data, and then here's where we actually call the contract to store that JSON encoded string. Yeah, and then our contract just takes that string or that data and makes an event, which we can pick up with other interfaces. So let's see if that works. Let's see what happens. So here is our web page. Let's reload it and see what came out on the output. Failed to load resources. Oh, it's trying to load a favicon. Although I don't know why that failed there. And now I refreshed, it's gone away. That's weird. This name is up here. I don't know why that is. I'm just going to see if I can change that by putting a break in front of everything. If it works, it'll be hacky, but that'll be all right with me. Okay, that works. I'm happy with that. Okay, well, at least our form looks good. So now, again, the use case here that we're imagining is that you are doing some work and you want to upload your data to the cloud and also timestamp it and put your name on it and all that stuff. So I guess just to imagine that more fully, the name of the data. Okay, well, let me just imagine a use case here. Let's say oh geez, I don't know. Let's say I'm making comments on the progress of the CPA of our academy here. So I'm going to just say CPA progress update, and maybe give it a date. And today is, what is today? It's the last day of July, 7/31. And I got a Slack message, maybe the researcher. I'm going to keep going with this now that I've got it in my head. Going well. So well. There we go. Okay, upload and timestamp. Let's see what happens. Now, I remember that the IPFS function that Bo had took a little time last time, so I'm not too worried that nothing happened immediately, but nothing. Oh, okay, so we got the successfully stored, so the IPFS bit worked. Now we have a reference error. Timestamper contract instance is not defined. I bet I forgot to do the window.app before it, so it's on 74. 74, yeah, here I should be going window.app. Okay, so let's try that again. CPA progress update. Excuse me. Data is going well. Hey, that looks good. So we've stored the hash and now MetaMask is popping up. Once again, it's giving me the gas price of 0. I'll have to see if I can change that in the code. It's weird that it's doing that though, and I don't really understand why. Okay, well that all looks good. So now let's just take this plop it into the Etherscan for Ropsten, and there's our contract contract call being mined. So if this goes through, we'll take a look at, I guess what we'll do is we'll go, once it's mined, assuming it doesn't give us any errors here on this page, I guess I'll go ahead and start doing it now. I'm going to go to our, what's it called, with Pragma, just to load the contract in another interface and actually see if the event, just inspect the event here, because our Etherscan transaction will show us that there is an event, but it won't be decoded properly. If we can look at the event logs, see that's not very helpful to us. But it does seem to be successful. Interestingly, you can change this and look at UTF-8. UTF-8. You'll be able to actually see the JSON string right in there. So that's cool. Ready for some other interface to be picked up out of this contract, and then they could go and get the put this hash into IPFS. But just to, well, that's good enough actually. I don't really need to add it to Pragma. We can see that well, it shows us the input data. I guess it's not technically showing us the log, so I will just go to with Pragma, add the contract information, and just verify that that's acting like it should. Okay, so let's grab this contract address again, put it in here, call this timestamper, get the ABI from our contract info here. Let's go interact, and then let's look at logging. And after a little bit of loading, this should actually show us. Okay, there we go. We have one timestamp event. We have the agent, and we have the data right there, and the time. So that's that all seems to work as we expect. So that's good. We can cross this whole baby out. Now we only have 13 more minutes. My hope was that we'd build another page that finds all uploads by a given Ethereum agent, then links to the IPFS page with the content. I am going to reword this a little bit and see if we can actually get it done. So build another page that finds all IPFS uploads logged and links to the IPFS page with the content. So, I'm not even going to build another page. I'm just going to put it in the page we have, just to save a few extra minutes here. So here is our page. What I'm going to do, so what I want to do is I want to actually generate a list of links, named links. So if we look at the event here, I'd like to, for each event here, make a link with the name of whatever the name is, and then maybe also output the agent that did it, and then a link to the IPFS page that will show us this. We could load the IPFS data directly in our JavaScript, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I think just linking to the IPFS page would be good enough, at least for the time we have remaining. So let's go to index. We want to make a new thing. I guess we'll do it after transactions. Oops. And all these classes are just well, some of them are for our, well, they're all triggering certain CSS classes, and some of those CSS classes we've defined in our CSS file, and others we have gotten for free from the Bootstrap package. Okay, so here we want to get a message here. Emmet? No, I don't know what Emmet is. So that's the reason, because I don't know what it is. I'll do a brief search, but unless it looks like it's super easy to use. I'm not going to worry about that now. No, there's no reason except that I don't know what it is. I will take a look at that after. Okay. So now we're going to go and get this code that I commented out earlier in the stream, because this is doing similar to what we want to do. Now what we don't really care about is going through this whole iteration, going through and tallying time. We don't need to do any of that. I'm just going to erase that whole thing. The main thing we want is we make a event filter, and then we get it and we do something with it. So okay, let's rename this. It's going to be get all IPFS logs from timestamper. We don't need that. And window.app, and this is called something else now. Timestamper contract instance, and then we want the name of the event, which, if we look at our event, it's called timestamp. That all will work. Event filter.get. And this is just a bit of a hack here. What I'm doing, oh wait, I don't need to put that in there. I'm going to Control Z that. Because we're using an anonymous function, I'm just setting a window, effectively a global variable to the result. Okay, now we don't need to do that. We do want to generate a list in view, so I'm going to name a list here. And that can be, well, we want to end up with a bunch of named variables. I guess I'm just going to say, get a list, an empty list. And now we want to go through our all timestamp logs, and we want to say, what we want to test for is if, first of all, if we can actually decode the JSON, because it's possible that when our event has this JSON structure, but there's nothing keeping anyone from uploading an event that has a totally different structure. So the first thing we'll do is we'll try to decode the JSON. And let's see, let's look at that. Let's look up JavaScript, JSON decode. It's probably, okay, so just JSON.parse. And I don't know if JavaScript does try and accept. JavaScript try and catch. Okay, well that seems pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So we're going to try, and what was it called again? JSON.parse. Parse equals JSON.parse, and then we're going to grab window.timestamp logs. I.args data, and actually we'll put the var parsed here and then do this like that. Catch, I actually don't know how to specify what I want it to catch. Oh, just catch error. Okay, well, that's pretty simple. So if we can't parse, we're just going to continue and try for the next one. If we can parse it, though, then that means it is JSON. So then we want to also test to see if the first of it has the key data type, and then if that key is IPFS. I guess if we just try to access it, it'll be undefined if there is nothing there. So we can just say if parsed, and I guess I should make this a little bit clearer, parsed data. I mean, I don't really know how much clearer that makes it, but if parsed data type, is that what I called it? Data type. Or, oh, I mean IPFS. Then we can do something like this next line here. I guess we need another. No, we'll just add it IPFS logs. And we can take out all this. We don't need any of that. Or that. Okay, that should work. And then I guess, so we're adding to IPFS logs as long as we can parse the data and as long as when we parse the data type does equal IPFS, then we're going to push, well, not all punch events, but rather well, I guess I actually want to make a dictionary here. And we also need a opening curly brackets there. Yeah, there is, but it changes the way that the events are encoded. And you can, and I don't think it actually makes it much faster. But I'm not really sure. That would be a good way to improve the design, would be to, instead of, yeah, filtering through like I am. However, I don't think you can, I don't think that there's a way to filter for, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to parse the data with JSON, and I don't think we can really filter for entries that are parsable by JSON. I think that's a little bit too high level to apply that to a filter. Although it'd be something to look into. You can filter on specific values. I don't know if I don't know if you can do anything higher level than just filtering on one specific value. So if we were trying to filter for a specific address, a specific agent, then we could do something like agent address. But I don't think we can filter any other kind of pattern. We would need a specific value. Okay, we only have 1 minute left technically, although I started a little late. I'm gonna see if I can build a dictionary and add it to IPFS logs. Var okay, so we want in here the name, we want the agent, and we could put the time in here as well, I suppose. Oh, yeah, I guess so you can filter for index, yeah. And part of the question is whether Web3 JS v1 is actually, Web3 JS v1 is not actually working with MetaMask right now, unfortunately. So I don't know. It'd be worth looking into whether this is actually true for. I think the filter mechanics will be the same, even in the older version of Web3.js that MetaMask uses, but I'm not sure. Okay, so agent, and one last thing I wanted to put here is the URL. And we're going to build that from, we're just going to say, let me see if it's actual, is it a HTTPS? IPFS, IO. It is, okay. And then the hash, which is going to be data, I think is what we called it. Agent time. Oh, and this is not an argument from the event. This is actually going to be from the parsed data. So and same with this. This is going to be wait a minute, what did I call this? Data type, name, data. Okay. That should work. And then we also need to actually add this IPFS log. And then finally in our HTML we need to actually display all this data somehow. v4 equals IPFS log in IPFS logs. I know I'm going over. I would like to try to get this to work though. Okay, for now I'm not gonna try to display everything. I'm just gonna try to do the URL with the name. Make a link. So I'm actually not sure if I can do it like that. Maybe I can. IPFS log URL. URL. Let's see if that works. That might not work just because of I'm not really sure if Vue can do it like that. Nope. Error compiling template. Interpolation inside attributes has been removed. To use vbind or the colon shorthand instead. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm gonna look that up unless it's easy. Let's see. Href. Okay. Okay, no errors. That's good. Now, we should see one thing show up here, maybe after a little bit of time, because we want to give this this filter.get sometimes takes a while to go, but it doesn't seem to be doing anything. Okay, so we'll see, should see it logging something. Oh, I don't actually call this function, that's the problem. So I just need to add a button to trigger that. Let's just put it right at the top here. Or actually I'll just add it to window.onload. Right at the end here. Hey, that looks promising, except it doesn't actually go anywhere. That is probably because I'm defining this A a little differently. Wonder if I can just do this. Nope. So well, I'm not sure why that link is not clickable. It seems like it's working. Let's just look at the log just to verify that it at least is. We got the address, and yeah, well, okay. I'm going to end the stream there. This should be clickable. I don't know why it's not, but then that would bring us to our CPA progress update, the actual data that we put in there. Not sure why that's not working, but I'll end the seminar here. Not really sure what we'll work on tomorrow. Probably take a look at the actual use case of this and think about what would make it a more useful utility for the user, and go from there. Let's see if there's any other comments to respond to while I'm in the video. Oh yeah, maybe so. I'll just try that really quick. I probably do. You're probably right. Let's try that. Still not clickable. So I don't know what's up with that, but all right, that'll be it for today's seminar. Thanks guys for joining in, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.